Welcome to Smart in the City, the Bible podcast where we bring together top actors in the smart city arena, sparking dialogues and interactions around the stakeholders and themes most prevalent for today's citizens and tomorrow's generations. I am your host, Tamlin Shimizu, and I hope you will enjoy this episode and gain knowledge and connections to accelerate the change for a better urban life. Smart in the City is brought to you by Biel Smart Cities. We enable processes from research and strategy development to co-creation and implementation. To learn more about us, please visit the Biel platform at biel-smartcities.eu. So welcome back to another episode. I am sitting here in the beautiful city of Istanbul, and we just had the lovely experience of the Urban Innovation Leadership Forum, which Biel had the honor of putting on together with the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. And I have gotten the chance to sit down with one of the guests here today. And it was just really an amazing experience getting to experience the last couple of days with him as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Barthélémy Rochat. He's the Chief Digital Officer, CDO at the city of Biel, Bienne. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation and for this beautiful event and organization. I've already told you I'm a big fan of the podcast. I really loved every episode to hear from other public servants, their idea, what they do, their project. This is amazing, and thank you for the invitation.
It's absolutely our pleasure, and it makes me really happy whenever I meet someone and they're like, oh, I've listened to almost every episode of the podcast before, and that just makes me happy because I know people are listening and learning from what we're doing. So thanks so much for that as well, and I'm excited to hear more from you. So as you know, because you're an avid podcast listener to Smart in the City, we like to start off with a bit of a teaser question. And the teaser question I have for you today is a classic as well. So you've heard it before. If Biel or Bienne were an animal, which animal would it be and why?
It's a difficult question. I come up with a beaver.
Oh.
A beaver because it's a cute animal, but it's still a bit strange. It's a social animal, but can be a bit strange animal. It's a fine, good walker, and I think Bienne, as an industrial city, as a watchmaking capital, has a lot of good and precise walkers. I think there is a similarity there. Bienne is also a city by a lake and with rivers crossing it. And we have actually real beavers within the city.
Ah, cool.
They are sometimes nasty. They are sometimes causing problems because they are cutting trees and blocking rivers. So beavers, because they are fun, they are social, and they are a little different.
Sounds good. You found a good animal. When we were talking the other day, you're like, that's the hardest question, is to find the animal. So
yeah, it took me basically 1 week to find an answer.
Very good, but very good answer. So I want to learn a little bit more about you as a person. Tell me about your background. What's your story? How did you come into this role today?
Okay, so I studied mathematics and physics in Switzerland. I started working in an international company in Lausanne in business intelligence. I then worked in Zurich for the main Swiss telecom company, also in business intelligence sector. And then back in 2019, I had the opportunity to come and work for the city where I grew up, actually, and where I was already living in. So it was a great opportunity to work where I was living. And I started in 2019 as a digital project manager, and then in 2020 as chief digital officer.
Very cool. I love hearing people's stories about how they ended up there. That's actually one of my favorite questions. So also very interesting background. So tell me about your city. What makes it unique? You said it's a little weird or funny, like a beaver. Tell me all about that. And also tell me where you're at as far as digital transformation.
Yes. So what I like to say is that cities are unique, like every single city. So what we have specifically is we are very well located. So we are 1 hour by train from Zurich, from Lausanne, from Basel, half an hour from the capital, Bern. It's the 10th largest city in Switzerland with about 57,000 inhabitants. And it's, I would say, a natural 10-minute city. So it's almost flat. It's really highly cyclable, has a very good public transportation, the lake around, the Jura mountain next to it. So it's the quality of life there is pretty high, and it's not a big or huge city, so it still feels very comfortable. It's also a bilingual city, so it sits between the French part and the German part. So there is 45% of the population speaking French and 55% speaking German. So that's also specific things about Bienne. And it's very diverse and multicultural. So there is about 150 nationalities living in Bienne, and therefore there is a vibrant cultural scene. On top of that, as I already said it with the beaver story, that it's a historic industrial city. It's a global watchmaking capital, hosting, for example, the Swatch Group headquarters. Swatch Group is producing Swatch watches, but also Omega, Tissot, Hamilton, for example. And it's also the largest Rolex production center. So just to know what is special about the city.
So are people always on time?
In Switzerland, people are generally on time or a little bit in advance, not to...
They all have nice watches, so there's no excuse, right?
Yeah, most of the time.
Very good. And where are you at as far as digital transformation?
Yeah, so the digital transformation, it's a journey. And since I started, and also the one before us, before we came there with our new management, I think we got already a lot of things right. But as you probably know, a city is like, our city is like 50 different small companies. We have 2,000 people working for the city. And so the level of maturity or digital maturity from one sector to another can be very different. But overall, I think we are really progressing towards the right direction.
Yeah, I want to dig into that a little bit more, but I also want to learn a little bit more from your perspective about how you see Switzerland as a whole. How do you see Switzerland positioning itself in the global digital landscape in comparison to maybe the rest of Europe, et cetera?
I think that's a very interesting question, because during this week we are talking with a lot of people from very different countries, and the structure of the state has a big impact on how the digital transformation and innovation is being lived. So
absolutely.
What people can do, cannot do, how it works. So in Switzerland, on the one hand, as you probably know, Switzerland is a federal country. So it means there are 3 levels of governance. There is the state level, the cantonal level, and then there is the municipal, the city level. And depending on where you live, the digital landscape can vary significantly. So because we all have different rules, different system in place, and each canton and each municipality has a certain degree of autonomy in implementing digital initiatives and policies. And on the other hand, you have Switzerland, which ranks first in the Global Innovation Index since 14 years. So there is really a rich innovation ecosystem. But so if the federal system really helped us in the past to have and to keep a strong stability, it does not always help to leverage this innovation potential at government level and at the desired speed. Things are slow.
I hear that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. In general, in administration, things are slow, but in Switzerland, because of these 3 layers, things can last for ages.
Yeah.
when we have urgent issues.
What do you think could speed that up?
Collaboration.
Okay.
This is something that helps to have engaged public servants who are ready to collaborate. That's one of the main thing to move things on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So before this, you told me that your team has a motto, and I really like it. It is set the digital foundations right to enable meaningful innovation. And so I've heard this from so many cities that they struggle with kind of this step. They get caught between kind of the legacy systems that they have in place and the need also to generate quick wins for the municipality. So I'm wondering if you can share from your personal experiences with your city, how have you balanced this, these foundational improvements with tangible digital progress?
Yeah. So first, maybe a little of history. So you know that I started as a chief digital officer in 2020, but that's the COVID year, and that's also the year when our but also accelerating year. It was a different year. Yeah. Different years, and during that year, our new CIO, Hélène Mourgadalc, joined us and joined the city, and she brought a very user-centered approach. And we decided also to be very structured, so to develop the digital transformation based on established frameworks that are already in place, very often in private companies, but we are taking them. I'm talking about the SAFE framework, for example, TOGAF for enterprise architecture, or COBIT for governance of IT. By the way, I am in the IT department, so that's why she's my boss, the CIO. But we try to take just enough elements from these frameworks, that the elements that are really useful. We called it just enough framework or something like this. So that's the first thing. It's to be user-centric and to be very structured, not to reinvent the wheel, or, as I say, sometimes to reinvent the squared wheel, which is even worse. And then we developed a product portfolio covering all city stakeholders and working with them to globally improve digital maturity through this portfolio. So this brought a really robust governance and helped us to have really impactful innovation through all the portfolio. So that's what we tried to do, and it worked. And it helped us to really progress in a lot of fields.
When you say that it worked, what does that mean? What was the element of success? Like, what were the KPIs to determine that success?
Okay, that's a good question. So the first success is that we were able to collaborate with all different departments of the city, about 15 different departments, and we have a trust now between us and the different departments. So this is already a success, because there were and there are often tensions between those silos. So I think one of the first element of public transformation is breaking the silos, and we managed to break the silos. So we are walking with them. Actually, we are walking for them. We are not an IT department in an IT company. We are an IT department in a city. So it means that whatever we do is to support some of the other functions. So that's the first thing. And then in each of the element of the portfolio, we were able to move forward to establish a structure. We have product manager, we have product owner on the business side, and we were able to put in place this structure and to move forward together to create a backlog of new features, new elements that people want, and to work on it for each of those products and to move forward. So this is really something that this structure helped us to achieve.
Yeah, really interesting. I think a lot of cities are struggling to find that structure. So that's good to mention that. You are emphasizing governance as a foundation for sustainable innovation, but innovation often comes from taking lots of risks and really challenging structures, right? So is there a danger to being too structured with digital transformation? Does that limit breakthroughs in innovation?
Yeah, it's a paradox. I mean, the danger is to be even slower. So if you bring more rules, more structure, more elements, but that's the idea. The idea is to keep the frame, because the frame is there. We have rules, we have laws, and we need to respect them. But inside those frame, we have the freedom to be agile. We have the freedom to collaborate, to discuss. One example that I could use is procurement. Procurement is often something very difficult, almost painful. And when I came into the city, everything was done on paper. So when you have a big project, you get tons of papers with tons of questions. And here you can innovate through procurement. So if you put the base right, if you use the right tool for procurement, we have a SaaS software as a service that help us to do procurement. It really helps everything to be easier, to be more structured, and procurement that is something very, very tedious and very something that takes a lot of time is now much better. It's still sometimes a bit painful, but it's much easier than before.
Do you know how long now it's taking you to procure innovation? Because this is something that we also track at Babel, is how long does it take to procure an innovative solution? We found that on average it's around 22 months, which obviously for innovation is way too slow. But of course, some cities have really found better keys to procuring innovative solutions. Do you have any kind of idea, like a broad range, at least, of how long it takes?
Yeah, one important factor is the amount that we need to invest, because depending on the amount, the way is very different.
Yeah.
So sometimes one example is, I will take another example to make one very successful project was in 2018, I think we started a project to procure all our school with informatic equipments, because this is done at a municipality level. So we have the canton which set up the rules, what needs to be taught, but the equipment for the informatic is brought by the city. And then it took a couple of years, but this project was more than 11 millions or even more. I don't remember exactly. So the process to go through all the stage gate is really, really difficult, because you need to plan the project, to architect the project, then you need to go to the executive level of the city, and then you need to go to the legislative level of the city, and then in Switzerland, because we have a direct democracy, there is a votation of the population. So the population of the city had to vote if they wanted to use this money to bring the equipment or not, and they said yes. So then we could start, and we could start to procure. So we could start to get the equipment and everything. So it really depends. If it's a small amount, if we need to prototype, and if we need to innovate or to check if something is working or not, we can do it pretty quickly, directly, if it's small amounts. But as soon as it gets larger, we need to go through these processes, which is also part of the democratic system, and that we accept.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. Thanks so much for sharing. I wonder if you can share also, what is the best advice you have received when it comes to innovation, of course, and what is the worst advice you have ever received?
Okay. So the best advice, I don't remember if I received it, or because that's an advice that I give to my kids always. And I always tell them when they have a problem, something they need, I always tell them that there is always a solution, but it's not always the one that you would prefer.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing for innovation. There's always a way to move forward, but sometimes you need to compromise. You need to move a bit away of what you were originally thinking.
I love that. And the worst advice?
The worst advice that I heard from, it's not really an advice, but it's something that you feel as advice when you start in administration. It's don't move. I have a friend of mine. I'm working with someone also for an innovative solution. She's telling me, because she's working with administration but outside, and she's telling me that's the best game that people in the administration like to play is the first who moves is losing. And sometimes it's a true problem. So you need to have really people who are motivated, who wants to move forward, and you need to find them, to go and find them, and not to be static, because this is impossible during this time that we are living now.
I love that as well. I think also during this week, we found so many of those motivated people that are really engaged and they really want to move things forward. It must be very frustrating being in a city and not being able to push things through. How do you deal with this frustration of always trying to push things through and keeping your motivation when things get stuck?
I think that working together with other partners, with colleagues that also do have the motivation, the result is that sometimes you are really, you don't have the same motivation, but they are still motivated. And the opposite. Then when they are not motivated, you are still motivated. And you see, and also when, for example, during this week, to see what people can achieve, what people can do, it give you the courage to try to copy, adapt, paste, to do the same thing for your city in a same way or a little bit different way, but if it worked there, why couldn't we do it and also move forward?
Yeah, really, really powerful words there. I wonder also if you can share a little bit more about the challenges that you're still facing. It sounds like you've broken through some barriers since your time at the city, but what challenges are still really remaining for you? And what do you think are the missing tools to really push that through? I know you've already mentioned collaboration. Is there anything else?
So I think a lot of people told that before, but digital transformation in general is first about organization, about people, about processes, about culture, and then at the end about tools. And I think one of the main challenge to really accelerate is having the right people at the right time to help moving forward. This is what really make a difference, to find the right people that will help you, that will follow you, and together that we can do something positive. And I think we have a positive trend, at least in our city. We are more and more surrounded by people that are really motivated, that can bring things forward. So in that perspective, things are really going in the right direction.
Yeah, good to hear. Is there any challenge right now that you're kind of stuck on, or that's really keeping you up at night, I guess, that you think would really help with getting the right people at the right time together?
I think we still need to be patient. We don't always have the right people. We have the people we have. And also as a manager, when you have a team, I've heard something very interesting. People told me when you do some management courses or something like that, they tell you, okay, when you start as a manager, you get to get the team that people give you. That's how it is. But after 1 year, after 2 years, you have the team that you deserve. So you cannot always blame it on others. It's also your responsibility to do with what you have, with the people you have, and to move forward together. So I cannot complain really, because there are some issues, there are some things that are moving slowly, but overall, because we are working together, we can move forward. And also because there are so many challenges, you can also pick your fight and you can also pick the fight where you know that the solution is there, that you can move a bit faster. And when for other problem where you don't have the solution, maybe in 6 months, 1 year, you can tackle this one and move on also.
Sounds like a good plan. You mentioned to me this potential paradigm shift in the smart city space, the Internet of Places. Can you break this down for me? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's you talk about the baby project. That's how you call it sometimes.
Yeah, it's like your baby, you know.
Yeah, it's true. During this Urban Innovation Leadership Forum, we talked a lot about how to get information and data at the right place and at the right moment. For example, during emergency crisis, to be able to take action and react as soon as possible. This is a big challenges we've heard, especially nowadays with the climate crisis and other different crises. It's getting fundamental. And my question is always, what about the citizen perspective? So, despite digitalization and maybe sometimes because of it, it's sometimes very difficult to get the right information when and where you need it. We are overwhelmed by information. The information now is segmented on various channels, and it gets really sometimes difficult to reach the population when something is happening. We have, as a city, so many channels to communicate. So we have a city website. We are on X. We are on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We have some web application. We have newspapers, and some cities have a lot of different things. But I remember in 2021, there was suddenly in the city a short blackout in the evening. And suddenly there was no electricity in the neighborhood. And I was already working for the city. And I could reach the responsible for the communication. And he explained me what was the origin. And he said, okay, we already communicated. So they put a line on our website and they did a tweet. But in the next days, when I was asking people what happened, nobody had any idea. So it means that we were not reaching people when we try to communicate. And this is a real issue, I think, that we are overwhelmed by communication. But when it's about local communication, we don't reach the population anymore, and the citizen don't get the information that we are sharing. We are communicating, sometimes over-communicating, but I think it does not really function always or often. And the Internet of Place, the idea is quite simple. It's to bring useful information where people are. And where people are, that really means, for example, at a bus stop, at a city square, at home, at work. So to have the possibility to link specific places with specific information. And this has been done a lot, but here what we try to do is to be cross context. So it's not just about, transportation or events. It's really about everything that makes sense for the people where they are. So for example, you are on the bus stop, and of course, you need to have the schedule of the bus. How long will you be waiting? This is normal. Every city tries to do that. But you can also inform people about what's happening in the area, in the 500 meters around this place. What's happening now? What will be happening this evening? Or where can you shop for something? Or when you're at home, there is very important for the people is the garbage collection. When can you put your garbage out? Something like this. So what we are trying to do is we are building a platform that we are testing, and that allows to create this connection between places, people, and information, and to have it available across context and across perspective. So I think it's still a bit abstract when I tell you like this, but it's really about when you are out, you are here in Istanbul, you are in Sultanahmet in a place, and you would like to know, where can I go and eat? What's happening in the evening? What can I visit? And what people are doing, they need to prepare 2 weeks in advance, because otherwise they will need to take their phone. And if they have a network, then they need to search on Google. And Google, for example, doesn't have the information about events. You don't know what's happening. So either you take a coffee break or tea break to find the time to install 2 or 3 apps and to search what's happening today, or you just go randomly and knowing that there is all this information already available. It's a pity that we don't have a way to access this specific information, this local or hyperlocal information.
Yeah, I like the way that you describe this. I think I've talked to many cities who are doing this in different ways, right? Some people describe this more as like real-time information at your fingertips, I suppose, or also some of the goals of the cityverse that's happening as well. Is it's all kind of converging to meet similar goals, right? Like giving people this hyper-local information that they need at that point, at that time.
So I think that the Internet of Places could be an element of the cityverse to help reach these goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, really interesting. I love your perspective there. I also want to give you a little bit of space now to talk about, is there anything that we missed in the conversation? You know that we like to give an open floor. If there's anything that you still want to talk about that you think the listeners should really know about your work.
Maybe I could tell about something that we talked about, innovation. During this week, we talked about the importance of having a common language. So I'm not talking about English, but really to know what we are talking about. And when you say words like innovation, it's very difficult to see what you mean. And the danger is to have buzzwords. Mm-hmm. That is, that words that you need to use to be fashionable, to make the marketing right, but that are empty behind it. That's a real risk. And I see that very often, that you have these buzzwords that are going on and people need to use it. Otherwise they are old-fashioned, or I don't know. And what I started to work on, but together with other cities, is to try to have an innovation framework. But there are tons of innovation frameworks. There are many of them. So what do you do when you have too many frameworks? You create a new one. But this one is a little different, as it is a minimal innovation frameworks. The idea is to give the tools to the people in administration to have the base for innovation. And again, it's about being structured. It's about methods. You have methods for innovation that are working and that are known. So you don't just need to pretend to do innovation, but you can learn this method and really to apply them at a very simple level, and to have just a few rules, a few methods that you need to learn. So it's still a learning process. And for the time being, this innovation framework is called Minima. And I'm trying to work on it to develop it, and also with other cities, so that it doesn't matter where you work, in which field you work, you still need to be able to innovate. Because the meaning of innovation for me, it's not like in the private sector. You don't need to invent something completely new. Already when you do something differently for a better outcome, this is a new innovation.
Yeah.
And there are some methods for that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What do you think are the other buzzwords? The first ones that come to your mind?
Blockchain, metaverse. There are many. Those are tools that can be useful, but you don't need to use them for everything, for every problem you meet. Very often you can use very simple tools, and yeah, sometimes the best way to digital is not always the best way, and sometimes the best way to get to improve sometimes a difficult process is to get rid of the process, to do things differently, or to remove the thing itself. So you need to be aware of that.
Yeah, really good. Really interesting to get all of your thoughts on there. Now, you know what time it is, I think. It is time for our fun segment that we've chosen for you today. And I have chosen for you my favorite segment, which is Roll with the Punches. Roll with the punches. Answer this or that questions quickly and with your first instincts. So this is when you answer this or that questions with your first instinct. And they're purposefully hard for you to choose sometimes. So sometimes you can't have one without the other also.
So your choice is really unfair. I told you, as a Swiss, we are speaking slowly and we are slow, and I like to think before answering.
Not possible here. Yes, not possible here.
Try.
You just have to answer. You have to go. So you have to fight the Swiss instinct, I think. All right. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Cycling or public transport?
Cycling.
Lake Biel or Jura Mountains?
Mountains.
Mountains. Internet of Things or Internet of Places?
Places.
Open source solutions or proprietary software?
Open source.
Standardized frameworks or custom-built approaches?
Standardized.
Public-private partnerships or government-led innovation?
Public-private, academic, people partnership.
Very good. Incremental improvements or disruptive innovation?
Incremental improvement.
Small city advantages or big city opportunities?
Small city advantages.
Biel or Bienne?
Bienne, as my mother tongue is French and not German.
Yeah, very good, very good. How was it?
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
for your time.
You did great. You answered with you answered it very quickly with good answers for the segment. So now you get to explain a little bit about your answers. Did you choose anything that maybe surprises the audience? Well, you changed public-private partnerships, for example. Why did you change public-private partnerships?
Why I changed it? Because, this is the right way to do things. If possible, when possible. It's not always possible, but when it happens, it's really something that accelerate things. We should really not consider a city administration and the one who need to decide, who have the answers, but we need to co-create things when it's possible, and to make things happening together.
Very good. And now it is the final question. It's a question we ask every single guest. And it's to you, what is a smart city?
Okay, I've heard this question about 50 times. And every time I was wondering what I would answer to it. And there is a little problem for me with this question.
Yeah.
And the problem is that do we really agree do we have a common language for what does mean smart? Because smart means a little bit like intelligence, but in a bit sexy way, I guess, in English. That's the meaning of smart. So it's an intelligent city. And then what does means intelligence? In general, it's the ability to understand, to learn, to adapt, and to solve problems. But we need to have a common understanding of what it means for us. And there is another fun fact. So if we talk about intelligent city or intelligent people, there is a study that has shown that almost everyone think that they are smarter than the average person. And statistically, this is impossible. So I think it's the same with cities. Every city hope or think that they are smarter than the average city, but at the end, it's not true. It cannot be true. So I think that in practice, the best way for a city to become smart on a daily basis is, as we said before, to break silos and to build bridges. And bridges within the administration and between the different administration, and building bridges with the policymakers, with the population, with the citizens, with the private and academic stakeholders. So a smart city is a city that does the right things with the right people for the right outcomes at the right times. It's not always easy.
Very good. I will just leave it at that because that was a perfect ending to the episode. So I just have to say thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate all your insights, getting to know how you think about these complicated problems and how you think about some of these terms. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And of course, thanks to all of our listeners for listening. And don't forget, you can always create a free account on babel-smartcities.eu. You can find out more about projects, solutions, and implementations. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening. I'll see you at the next stop on the journey to a better urban life.